Welcome to another episode of EMS and Bowling. I am your host, Mike.
I'm Abby, and I don't trust Mike that he's actually recording.
No, it's definitely recording this time.
There was a breach of trust here. I still think we should have made Ryo say the intro.
Maybe next time. Maybe we'll get him to record it for us and we can play it every time.
That's so funny.
Yeah. So tonight we got Bradley with us. Bradley, how are you today?
I'm doing really well.
That's wonderful. We started an episode with Brad and then we got cut short. So we're going to start over again this week and get this going.
Sounds good.
So Brad, we're going to start out with a hot take. All right. We start every episode like this. My hot take this week is going to be country music is more pop now these days than it is country music.
My lovely partner, Matthew, said that, actually, I don't know if I can repeat that. He said that modern country music is pop for people who are afraid of minorities. And I think there's truth there.
Yeah, we're afraid of minorities, or just like cowboy boots and hats. I like it. I kind of agree. I like the fact that country music is kind of opened up to a lot of I don't know, like what music genre isn't fun to play with, and make it. I don't know. Sometimes it's more mainstream, but sometimes it's just more interesting or reaching a new audience. That's cool.
I think you could also say the same thing for rock, right? Like, who is making rock and roll anymore? It's all like kind of pop rock.
I agree on that too.
Except for the Stones, who are actually still alive mostly.
It's unbelievable to me that they are. That you can do all that shit and then you can live that long. I feel like that's just proof that it'll be okay.
Right.
You can make those decisions.
Consequences? What consequences? Good for them.
Abby, what's your hot take?
My hot take is that drinking black coffee does not make you superior to anybody. Somebody who was a barista for like 3 years, I did not think you were cooler when you looked me in the eye and you were like, I'm just going to take a black coffee. I don't fucking care, okay?
I hate black coffee. The only time I drink black coffee is when I'm on a diet.
I'm drinking fucking iced vanilla lattes. And you know what? I still know how to pull a perfect espresso shot. I know how to do that. And I still think it's better when you put other stuff in it.
I like mine light and sweet. That's what it is.
Light and sweet.
Light and sweet.
What's your hot take?
Well, first to address the coffee issue, I love coffee. I'm usually just a one-a-day guy. And I'm a little bit fussy with the way I brew it at home. I have a little AeroPress. I do my own little thing. I put just a wee little pinch of salt. Doesn't make it salty. Just takes some of the bitterness out.
Mm-hmm.
And I can drink it black, but I also like, if I'm going to add cream, I add heavy cream. Why not go all the way?
Whoa. I mean, if you're going to go, you can go
all the way. Iced, hot, doesn't matter. Heavy cream.
It
is a luxury, and that's a luxury I can actually afford.
Right. I definitely like whole milk in my coffee. Like that's where I go with is whole milk usually.
Nice.
So
Speaking of drinks, I think you should try the banana water and you should tell us how it is.
Well, you know what? I mean,
is it the strawberry banana water?
We work in an industry that promotes not necessarily the best eating and drinking habits. And we have a boss that likes to buy some weird shit for us, but he's a nice guy and likes to feed us. So,
organic banana water.
Tim, here's to you with organic banana water.
That could have been a commercial. That could have been an ad.
100%.
It's not bad, but it kind of tastes like a watered down smoothie.
Oh, that's what Justin said earlier. Both Justins, actually.
Justin's.
I'm gonna have to actually put promotional on this now because we just promoted the banana water.
We didn't say the brands, whatever it is.
Not bad. I've been on a smoothie kick lately. I've always liked smoothies, but for a while I get away from it. Then we needed a new immersion blender at home because my wife makes a lot of soup. She's a really good cook. She makes these great soups, and sometimes she'll blend them up. And we got this super powered like Vitamix immersion blender. And I named it Smithers because it turns everything into smithereens. And Smithers is my buddy, and every morning gets me up with a big, super chunky, like large shake size worth of, I don't know, all sorts of vegetables and fruit and stuff.
What are you putting in there?
Well, my smoothie of choice, my current smoothie of choice is frozen. Use mostly frozen fruit, frozen peaches, frozen banana.
I feel like if you put banana in there, it's a banana smoothie.
There's also just a little bit in there, and that's probably why I don't mind the banana water too much. But the chocolate banana water he had in like a couple weeks ago, that was kind of weird.
Sorry, or that was actually a thing. That's
Yes, there was chocolate banana water here.
Oh no, strawberry is
That was
fine.
kinda weird.
Like that's
Strawberry
natural.
that's a little more
Yeah.
like mainstream weird, not weird.
I do feel like that's kind of weird though.
Yeah.
Chocolate bananas to me though, like when you get like frozen chocolate bananas, it's just like weird.
no, I think
know.
it's good, but you can't
He's saying that because he knows I eat them.
Like I like them. It's just there's just something weird about eating a chocolate banana.
I like how you couldn't make eye contact with Brad as you said that.
He's thinking that at the same time, like I'm trying to be nice, but man, this guy's weird.
Speaking of which, what is your hot take?
So my hot take, what is my hot take this week? Well, last time we were talking about this, I asked you about pineapple on pizza. And we didn't record that, so
I mean, everybody loves pineapple on pizza.
I like it. Yeah. Do you?
I like most things on most things. Like I'm a pretty go get 'em. There isn't much I wouldn't eat.
So I went to New York City this weekend and was there with my family and stuff. And we were told to go to John's Pizza in Times Square. The place was phenomenal. It was beautiful. The building was beautiful. The pizza was amazing, but they had like 4 pizzas on the menu. There's like cheese. There was a bruschetta pizza. There was Hawaiian pizza and then something else. So one of the greatest pizza places in Times Square had pineapple pizza.
There you go. It's definitive. Pineapple works.
Last time we talked about it, I said, if you think too much about it, it's weird to have like fruit and hot cheese. And then Brad pointed out that you already have that with the tomatoes. And I went home and I thought about that. I was like, whoa.
So yeah, that tomato and cheese, it's weird.
If you think too hard about it, then it becomes really unappealing. So I just don't think about it.
All right, so Brad, where are you from originally?
I am from Detroit. I'm an inner city kid.
It's so funny knowing you.
Grew up on the east side of Detroit, 7 Mile and East Outer Drive. That's my old neighborhood.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you moved, yes.
I did.
Yeah.
I moved out of Detroit. I lived in a great neighborhood when I was growing up. It was mostly Eastern European immigrants, mostly like Romanian and Hungarians. That was like my mom's side of the family. And I knew almost every single neighbor within blocks around, and you'd walk down the street and it was rude if you didn't say, hello, Mrs. Starkey or Mrs., whoever, and wave to somebody.
That explains your personality a lot.
Well-
In a good way, but that explains a lot.
Things changed a little bit, and then things changed a lot, and our neighborhood got pretty rough, and we'd like come home and literally too many times come home and like go to walk in the door after like being at a friend's house or something like that and find somebody still in the house robbing it and like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's more
Let me
than
wait
Detroit.
outside.
I think of
I've
bullet
heard that
holes in the
is
side of the
outside.
house, a car stolen so many times. It was just like, oh, really? The car's gone again. And so my parents got sick of that. We moved to the burbs and we found the shittiest house in a halfway decent suburb. And, so it was like so long Detroit. Felt like I kind of lost my soul. But I had a nice lake, a little pond to swim in. So I guess that was kind of cool. When I was in my early 20s, I realized that living in southeastern Michigan was not the most amazing thing for me. I had a weird thing happen at work, which was just like gave me the perfect crossroads. Like, hey, this is a decision to make. My boss gave me an ultimatum, and I don't handle ultimatums well. Like, I'm a pretty easygoing guy. If you give me an ultimatum, you're not going to like the consequences. So I took the first job I could find going as far away as I could. And I ended up out in California. I moved to California. I got a job working in Yosemite National Park. I went out there actually with a buddy of mine, and it was actually a lot of fun. It was a good way to just sort of get away. And I had a super deluxe job. I had which earned me a wage premium. He was scooping ice cream and making only $5.12 an hour. And I was making $5.16 an hour because I could make pizza because I had kitchen skills.
That is awesome.
whoa, big step up.
Yeah.
We talked about this when I worked at McDonald's when I first started there when I was 14 and how I was making like $5 an hour.
Yeah.
It's kind of insane.
Yeah, it was pretty much criminal wages, and it was a great place to be, but it was a super shitty job because the place I worked for, I didn't work for the Park Service, I worked for a concessionaire, and they were largely a prison work release program, which definitely people need a place to do that. I'm all for that, but people made so little money there that if you went out and you had to pay for your room and board, and you had to pay for your food, even though it was company housing, and so if you saved a lot of money at the end of the week, if you had $20 to your name, you're like, wow, $20 a head. You're like, that's amazing. You really, you're really crimped and saved. So if you go out once and have a couple beers and a pizza, like you were done. So like there were suicides. There were people just like couldn't take it, like couldn't find their way out. It was a very bizarre situation in the middle of like wilderness paradise, which was a fantastic place for me. Anyway, I moved out of the Bay Area. And I met, I started working in the outdoor industry and really getting into all sorts of outdoor activities, some climbing, rock climbing, mountaineering, backpacking, hiking, all that kind of stuff. And then I met my wife. That's kind of an interesting story too. I'm not sure we have enough time to get into it tonight, but she got me into sea kayaking and paddling, and really took off in it. And end up becoming like a kayaking instructor and doing some other stuff. And I decided that I didn't want to work on the retail side of things anymore, and I wanted to go and pursue a degree in outdoor education. And I had this crazy, wild opportunity. I ended up starting a pilot program and founding an outdoor education program, which ended up becoming a nationwide thing. It was awesome. It was like it was a dream job. It was awesome because I was either outside all the time. I'd end up managing a pretty large group of people, doing really amazing things. And I found something out about myself, that I have a hard time like doing mindless jobs and selling widgets that I don't really believe in. I gotta do something that I feel like makes a change in people's lives for the positive. Like if you're going to spend your time doing something, do something that brings somebody joy.
Right.
So, we got a chance to teach people how to like rock climb or backpack, but we also got a chance to do some like more normal everyday things, like teach adults how to ride a bike. Imagine being like 40 years old and never having ridden a bike. We teach somebody how to do that. And that's a pretty cool way to connect people to joy.
That's pretty awesome. I don't think I don't know. I can imagine not knowing how to ride a bike until I was 40 years old.
I can't remember the last time I rode a bike. I'm sure I could still do it hypothetically.
So we taught hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kids how to ride, but we actually formed our how to ride program for adults. And we taught probably thousands of adults to ride. And it's surprising. People come out of the woodwork and all of a sudden there's a program to teach them. So that was something that, it's nice to feel like you have a sense of purpose, like you're doing something and you're making some sort of positive contribution. Anyway, one of the coolest things about my job is that I was always interested in medical stuff, right? And I started just taking a first aid class and CPR class and all that. And I said, well, I'm getting into the outdoors. And this is before I got into running a pretty large outdoor educational wilderness guiding program. This is when I was just starting to get out and do my own thing. I took a wilderness first aid class. Like usual first aid class was like 4 hours. This was like 2 whole days. And it was about physiology and anatomy and the types of problems that can occur with either injuries or illnesses, and how do you deal with that when you're a little away from care. And then I got into outdoor education and program management and running, literally like dozens of programs and having hundreds of people out every weekend all over the mountains and all over the coast. And so we got into like a little bit more remote wilderness care. So I ended up taking a program called a wilderness first responder, which is pretty much like being an EMT. But your first aid kit is probably a lot smaller and there's no ambulance. It's just whatever stuff you can cobble together. But the actual education and the clinical experiences and stuff like that are very close to being an EMT. Anyway, years later, when my wife and I had our daughter Freya, she was 3. We're still living in a 1-bedroom apartment in the San Francisco Bay Area, which I loved. Man, I love Oakland, I love Berkeley, San Francisco, that whole area. And I miss it a lot, but it got ridiculously expensive.
You do have that vibe, though. Like, you have the most California vibe of anyone I've ever met.
I kind of met my people in a lot of ways. Like, I like people who are like seeking for something, looking for connection. Yeah. Crunchy granola people, I'm down with that.
I was definitely seeing like California girl. like the Katy Perry type stuff.
Brad is a California girl. But what brought you here?
Well, so my wife wasn't born here, but she moved to Ithaca when she was in first grade. And she had a great childhood growing up here. And when we first got together, one of the first things we did a few months later was we took a big road trip. We took like a month off work and we toured all over. We went on a huge backpacking trip out in the Wind River Range, which is a super remote peak in the Rockies, or super remote area in the Rockies in Wyoming. We went to the Olympic Peninsula. But one of the first, we started our trip by driving east and spending a few days with their parents before we went up to Maine and did a whole bunch of stuff. Anyways, it's like coast to coast adventure.
Oh, yeah.
But we came to Ithaca and spent probably about 3 or 4 days here. We did a little canoe trip on the Susquehanna River. And from the get-go, Rachel was like, hey, she'd just been not really dropping hints, not like trying to hook me. She's not that kind of a person, but like, hey, I had a great childhood growing up here. So after we got together, before we ever moved back, we got married here in the Ithaca area. And we always thought, hey, if we have kids, a kid or kids, and it being just one, at some point, we might consider moving here, at least just for a couple of years, because it was a great place to grow up. Oakland had a lot of amazing opportunities. It was like this cultural melting pot. Like it's such a, like all the different neighborhoods with all the different ethnic groups and whatnot all kind of came together in my neighborhood in Oakland. And I love walking down the street and meeting somebody from a different corner of the world, like, pretty much every other step. But it wasn't a place where you see kids running around on their own. Like they're either with their parents when they're toddlers, or you see them again when they're in like high school or college. And you don't see kids out in the street. And like my wife's like, man, I had this ideal, upbringing in Ithaca. It's just a cool place for kids. So we moved back here to be close to family. My wife's in-laws are here, and so we moved back here. I got a nice little severance package for my job because they gave me this, it's kind of a long story, but I had kind of done so well with the job that they decided to like reinvent my title and my job. So they actually said, hey, your job doesn't exist anymore. You have to apply for this new job based on the fact that you did all these great things, but we're going to make you apply for it. But there's several options, of course. One is, there's a severance package. Number 2 is this. Number 3 is this. And I said, I'll take the severance package. And they're like, what?
Oh, shit.
We started this entire thing from the get-go, right? And formed this like nationwide program. We were getting like almost 250,000 people outside every year. It was an amazing experience. But I'm like, it's time for me to get off this train.
Right when they did that, they weren't thinking that was the last thing that we thought that he'd take.
No, I don't. They were pretty shocked that I did that.
Right.
But it was the right thing for me at the time. And so we moved out here to Ithaca. We moved in with my in-laws. They had a sort of a space in their house. They had built an addition when my wife was a kid, and they pretty much lived on one side of the house, and the other side of the house where she grew up was just kind of vacant. So we moved into the other side of the house, and they graciously let us live there for a while. And I didn't even have a job or anything. Just like, we got enough severance to live for like 6 months, and we'll kind of figure it out. And I did a bunch of odd jobs. I sort of became a handyman because I have a background. My dad taught me how to, I built my first kitchen with my dad, like custom for everything, running electrical, running plumbing, all that stuff when I was like 13. So I did some sort of handyman stuff, but I'm like, hey, now that I have a little spare time, I always wanted to get my EMT, right? And I get my woofer, my woman's first responder, but I always wanted the EMT and sort of that other experience, being on the other side of things, receiving the patient handoff. And so I started going over and volunteering with Varna Fire and running with those guys.
I can't picture that. I can't picture that. That's nothing against any other agency, but it is mostly college kids, and I just
Yeah, I mean, it's it's always gonna be some college kids, but there were some cool people there, and they taught me some good stuff, and they were kind of, I think they were also glad to have somebody that came in and was just willing to put in some work that also wasn't just a college kid with some of the same issues. So it was a good fit for me, and I learned how to do vehicle extrication and a bunch of fun stuff. And they said, hey, we'll pay for EMT. And when I did my ride time at the hospital, I did clinical time at the hospital, and I came over to Bangs to do ride time, and I had some really great experiences. Now, I have to qualify that because in EMS, when we say, hey, that was a really great call, we don't necessarily mean it was a great call for the patient, right? Like no one wants the patient to have a bad day. But if they're already having a bad day, like it's good to get experience and to figure out how to handle a really bad call. So on my first ride-along shift, 2 of our patients, the first patient we had died. Not on us, but like minutes after getting to the hospital. The second patient we had got brought into the hospital and they got transferred to upstate and they died at upstate, right? And like there was a lot of stuff. And I remember one of my partners, actually Justin Jackson, turns to look at me and we're in the back and he's like, hey man, I know this is just an observation shift, but we could use a hand. Are you willing to help us out? I'm like, yeah, this is great. And they ran this call and the patient was having a like a CHF crisis with like flash edema and difficulty breathing and all the rest. And so I helped them put on CPAP and do all this other stuff. And afterwards, they wanted to go through the call. Like, hey, let's do a call review. That was really tough. And they asked for his supervisor. His name's Ralph. He's still kind of around, but he just works occasionally. But Ralph's a great guy. And he came down and the entire crew, this guy named Kevin, Justin, Ralph, and myself, they said, hey, look, we're going to discuss this call. And we want to talk about like what went well, didn't go well. Is there something that we could have done better? So when I worked managing our crews, I had a staff of, there's probably about 30 people that I directly managed. And there was another couple hundred that I indirectly managed in different ways. And I always thought that it was one of the good marks of, hey, I'm doing my job right as a manager, especially with remote teams out in the field, like literally deep out in the field, out in, wilderness areas. If something happened and it didn't go well, I felt like I was doing a good job supporting with management if the very first person they wanted to tell was me if something went wrong, right? And that means that there's trust established. They can come to me and say, hey, man, this went sideways, and I will help you figure it out, right? Don't hide stuff from me. Bring it to me. And when I saw that, when that happened on that call, they're like, hey, we're going to discuss this call. And Justin turns to Ralph. He's like, yeah, I just want to find out if I did the best thing. Like that was really complicated. A lot of stuff changed really fast with this patient. And I said, hey, I'll let you guys discuss this. What do you want me to do? Like, I'll wait upstairs. I don't want to miss the next call, but I don't want to get in the way. And they all turned to me and said, hey, you were a part of this call, right? And you weren't just observing, like you actually jumped in and had hands-on patient care. You deserve to be here too. And we welcome your opinion. And that was a really cool thing. So I went home and all I was going to do was get my EMT and I was going to stay over at Varna. I was going to do my volunteer thing and I was going to run my little side program. I was looking to work back in my field and applying for jobs around the country for outdoor ed stuff. And after that experience, I'm like, you know what? That was super awesome. Maybe I'll get a part-time job working at Bangs. Like, I don't know what. I think I'm going to go just check this out. So I put in an application after I get my card, graduated from class. And I went over and I just had an interview with Courtney. And the interview went really well. And she actually asked me if I wanted a full-time job. And I wasn't ready to really answer. I was just really looking for part-time. She's like, well, we don't usually hire, at the time they weren't hiring full-time EMTs regularly. But she offered it.
Right.
And I said yes.
The funny thing about that is when I started here like 16 years ago, they offered me a full-time job and I got the same thing. Well, we don't really offer full-time jobs to EMTs.
That's funny because they said the opposite for me. They were like, we want full-time people.
Oh, how the times change.
Right.
You were a black cloud from day one.
That's
Pretty
Yeah,
much.
That's what it seems like, yeah.
I was a black god from day one.
It's held up though.
Yeah, that's legit.
So yeah, that was a lot of information. I definitely like I'm not like an outdoor guy. Like I walked 17 miles around New York City this weekend and that was a lot for me. So
That's a lot of blocks in New York City.
yeah. But yeah, that sounds pretty interesting. The whole outdoor wilderness stuff. I've always wanted to do something like that, but it just doesn't. Every time I'm like, this sounds like fun, and then I think about how much work it is, and I don't want to do it.
Well, the thing is, that's where I go to like recharge, right? Just like not just the physical battery and get some rest, but like that's where you go to mentally, spiritually, however you want to think about it. Like I go and there's something like people who spend a lot of time in rivers often talk about being on river time. And I've done a lot of water trips, like a lot of the trips that we do, like multi-week sea kayaking expeditions, like out on the coast and out to islands. We've done like month-long trips in the Boundary Waters. We're out and just like paddling by canoe, and you have all the stuff that you have and your food and whatnot, and you only see a handful of other people for like a month. And you get in a different kind of a cycle, right? You start thinking about things that are a little bit more literally important in your life. You're not worrying about these esoteric things. You're really thinking about the basics of life. The next meal, how do you find where you're going to set up shelter? What would be in a way to have fun and kind of enjoy yourself as well. And you get into, again, what a lot of people talk about river time. Like if you do big, long whitewater rafting or canoeing or whatever on a big river, you go with the flow of the river, and that it brings you out of the everyday pettiness. And I'll tell you what, you get home. I remember getting out of the Boundary Waters. My wife and I had been there for about 3.5 weeks. We'd seen, I think, 2 or 3 other people for the whole time.
It's a long time.
It is. And we came out and and we're out there, and her canoe, we used her canoe, this Winona Jensen 18. It's like a really sweet, it's almost like a racing canoe, but we used it. It's an ultralight canoe for tripping. And this thing is pretty fast in the water, but fast by canoe standards is not like fast by like a powerboat, right? And it's certainly not fast compared to like a car. But we're efficient paddlers, and we get out there and we'd scoot pretty good on the water and make good time. And one of the fastest things you see around, like you see birds and things, well, dragonflies. So you'd go through, like paddle through the edge of a swamp or like and you'd see a dragonfly and it would buzz past you on the water. You're like, wow, that's really moving, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's fast action in a wilderness setting. And so we spend almost a month like that. And then we get out and we get into our car and we load all of our stuff up on the top of the car, and we go to drive back into like civilization. And I remember getting in the car and driving, and I like to drive and I don't mind driving fast. And I realized that I'm driving about 5 miles an hour. And my wife looks at me and she's like, and she's kind of freaked out too. Like, this seems like we're going really fast. And I look down, I'm like, oh my God, I'm barely idling. Right. I barely am pressing on the accelerator at all. And I remember driving down this dirt road and a dragonfly was flying. And I remember passing a dragonfly and be like, wow, we are really moving now. We're doing like 20.
That's crazy.
New version of driving hot just dropped, and it's that we just have to outpace a dragonfly.
Yeah, how fast would you go? Well, definitely past the dragonfly.
Do you think you would ever go back to a job in like a more outdoorsy job, or are you like, that was cool, but the ship has sailed?
Honestly, I think like one of my, if I could do things over, like it's not going to happen with where I'm at in life and timing and everything like that. But one of the things I would love to do would be, I don't want to say never, maybe it could happen, but I would love to be a paramedic working in wilderness medicine and almost like almost like the DEC Rangers do in New York State. But they, search and rescue, that kind of stuff is stuff that I've been involved in and have worked in the past. And so being able to go out there, find people, rescue people, and also provide the medical care and bring them out, that would be pretty awesome. And then it would also be spending time in the places that I love to be, wild spaces.
Do you feel like that when you have to go in the gorge in the 90-degree heat?
See, they call it like, oh my God, we got a gorge rescue. I'm like, please send me. I'll take it. Like, no, you're not rotating. I'm like, please, let me take it. I can guarantee you the next crew does not want to go.
Right. I'm 100% that crew.
Oh, I don't want. No,
Right.
don't send me down there.
No. Years ago, I had an agreement with one of our coworkers. We had a elliptical here, right? And he's like, if you do 40 minutes on that elliptical, I will take your next like 3 gorge calls. 40 minutes on that elliptical, I hurt, but I didn't have to take any more gorge calls for a while.
I was gonna say a gorge call tends to hurt more.
Right.
What's your least favorite type of call then?
My least favorite type of call.
Yeah, like the one where it comes in and you're like, fuck. Not just because it's like sad for the patient, just because you don't.
No, yeah, I get it. Like actually bad for us too. I think sometimes it's frustrating dealing with some of our regulars who are just like, it's kind of like, a call, the tones drop, and doo, right? And you're like, oh, okay, what are we doing now? And then you hear this recording and you're like, oh my God, I know who this is. This has got to be
The repeat customers, yeah.
Right. It's one of our frequent flyers, and it's just gonna be a bunch of bullshit. And it starts to annoy me, and you get to complain with your partner, and you're all kind of worked up. But then I always have to remind myself when I get on scene, I'm like, all right, this might actually be legit. Let's give him a chance. And sometimes it is, and honestly, a lot of times it's not. But you gotta allow that it might be. I guess the one thing that keeps me from going over the edge and just kind of losing my shit about that stuff when it's like, hey, this is the 4th out of 7 calls I've done today, and it's just complete baloney, right? Is I remind myself and say, you know what, I have to deal with this person for maybe 10 or 15 minutes on scene, or maybe we transport them and I'm with them for the next 45 minutes. But it's only 45 minutes of my life. And if that was my life and I had to live that every day, like, that's insane. Like, I don't know how people cope when they're in that kind of a situation with whatever it is, mental health complete breakdown or addiction cycles and all the problems that come with poverty, which is like the worst comorbidity there is. And I think to myself, you know what, all my little petty complaints, like, I'm okay with my life suddenly. So it was like, as frustrating as it is, I come away feeling like my life is much more put together than I thought it was this morning when I left for work.
I feel like that whenever I'm like in my house, because I think about some of the houses that we go into and I'm like, wow,
Right.
this place is actually awesome.
Yeah, my wife who keeps a very neat house. She's very tidy. She's very organized. In fact, she for a long time we had this stuff equilibrium. Right? It's like if I bought something, I love getting stuff. I'm not like a big like online shopper, but outdoor gear and equipment.
He's a hoarder.
I'm a whore for outdoor gear and equipment. Like,
Everyone has
look,
their weak
new
spot.
climbing harness. Look, it's a new backpack, right? And I'll bring it home. She's like, oh my God, where are we going to put this other tent that you bought? I'm like, it's like something's got to go. And so that's what she developed a long time ago. This stuff, the equilibrium of stuff. Something comes into the house, something's got to go.
Right.
Well, we don't have that anymore because we have a 14-year-old daughter, right? And she's not crazy with, well, like certain toy, like most of her childhood toys are still crammed into her bedroom. Very neatly, well displayed, well organized, but they're still there. So we don't have the same stuff at Equilibrium, but but it's still a very neat, very clean place, right? My wife and we work together to keep it clean, but she does almost all the work at home because I work. And every once in a while she'll say something like, oh my God, the house is such a wreck. I can't believe it. I feel like this place is turning into a hoarder house. Like, look at that pile of laundry in the corner and look at this thing that you left on the counter. I'm like, I just kind of smile. I'm like, yeah, this is, if you could only see what we see.
Right. There's just nothing.
Yeah.
Do you consider yourself like an optimist? Have you always had like a very positive, upbeat personality, or is it something you had to like learn and like acquire? I'm always mystified by people like you in like an awestruck way. I do wish I could be like that, but I'm just not.
So I'll be honest, like, yes, I don't even know if it's fortunate enough to be. I'm an optimist, and I think that there's good things about that and there's bad things about that. Sometimes the problem is that I get uncomfortable when a bad thing happens and I can't try and turn it around. And I don't mean like, oh, there's a silver lining, everything. Like, we all know there's no silver linings in some shitty situations, right? You walk in and you're like, there's no way to color this good. This is bad all the way around. But I can be a compassionate human being and like sit with you in this. And I can do that on the job, but sometimes in my personal life, it's hard to like not want to fix stuff that I can't always fix.
Right.
And I think that trying to keeps it in balance. And that's, everybody has their own like journey and stuff to like figure out internally. And that's one of my things is trying to figure out, like, I can't fix everything. Some things, like, how do you figure out what you can work towards fixing and making better?
Mm-hmm.
And what can you just sit with and say, you know what, I'm okay with the imperfectness of it. I can sit with that. I can accept some sadness and some frustration in life, and I have to be okay with it. I have to be satisfied. When I grew up in Detroit, I love both my parents. They had a horrible relationship. They fought like cats and dogs all the time. I've often referred to myself as a gypsy Viking. Now, in PC terms nowadays, I'd be like a Roma Scandinavian or like a Romanavian, right? But like Romanians and Scandinavians, like, they're both great people, but my mom is super hot-blooded and hot-headed and like a temper and a fierce opinion on most
Jeez,
things.
I wonder what that's like. Crazy.
I know, like, who knows, right? Maybe we know somebody else like that, Abby.
It's Mike.
Yeah. Totally me.
And some people, like my dad, was just soft-spoken and he felt things deeply, but he wouldn't share them. Like, you had to pry them out of him. And if you weren't sitting right in front of him, like you'd be like, I'm not sure if he remembers he has a son and a daughter. Like, what the hell? Like, he's hardly ever around. He felt things deeply, but he didn't know how to engage. So they had a terrible relationship. They fought all the time. My mom was super depressed. She was bipolar. She was suicidal for a number of years, or talking about suicide, which scared the crap out of me. And I always thought, like, if something happens, it's gonna be my fault because I'm the one that pushed her button and like pushed her over the edge. So my dad, when my parents first got together, he took over an excavation company. His company was called Ideal Excavating, and they basically dug big holes and put sewer lines in and things like that. And he really worked hard to try and advance this company and grow it. And they took a job that was way too big, and they actually did a good job. But this it's a long story, but this major company that hired them as a subcontractor just totally screwed them over. And they lost their work bond and their performance bond, and they got tied up in courts for years. And because of it, my dad ended up losing the business. Like, they had to sell off really expensive equipment just to pay staff. And pretty soon there was nothing left. In the end, they won the court case, and they're like, "That's too bad. Like, you won it on paper, but there's nothing left of the company." And so we were never well-to-do. Like, it was like always trying to invest in the company and grow it. But we were like okay growing up in a very like lower middle class, very much lower middle class, generalized neighborhood. And then we were on food stamps and like not knowing where the next food meal came from. And there were plenty of times where like a knock at the door would come, and you're like, someone's at the side door. You go open it, and there's just 2 brown sacks of groceries. And it doesn't matter what's in it. You're like, where did this come from? And you pick it up and you're like, oh my God, I guess this is what we're eating for dinner, because there is no more food in the house. And I just remember being like, I remember another time when, we'd finally moved out of Detroit. We were living in the burbs, but times got tough financially again. And this guy comes, another knock at the door. This time it was worse news. And somebody was posting that our house was being foreclosed on and was going to be sold out from under us at an auction in like a week, because we were behind on the mortgage. And instead of completely freaking out and losing our shit, like, my mom and I looked at each other. My dad wasn't even living at home at the time, but they were still technically married. And just looking at each other and being like, all right, this is just another one of these crazy fucking curveballs that life throws you. We didn't panic. We just came together and we're like, how do we, like, what's the next logical step? How do we sort ourselves out of this? And so I learned from a pretty early age, like, how to try and remain calm in really tough situations. But sometimes it's hard. Everybody doesn't react to it in the same way, and that's okay. But I like to fix things. I like to be helpful, and sometimes I get easily frustrated when it's like I go to help or I go to do something, especially when it's like it's a family member or it's somebody, it's a good friend, and I can't fix a situation. I find it more frustrating than other people might, because another thing that happened in childhood was my sister was, she was the favorite child. I was an actual mistake. And my mother really favored her in a lot of ways. And in some ways, it was easily understandable. My mom had a really difficult childhood, and she was kind of living a lot of her dreams through my sister. Like, hey, she's got these I'm going to try and give her whatever opportunities we can. My aunt bought a horse. We're still living in downtown Detroit. My aunt bought a horse and said, hey, there's this farm just out of town, and I'll just, as a treat, I'll take all the kids, all the nieces and nephews, and teach them how to ride. And my sister went out there and rode, and the person that gave a lesson was like, wow, this kid's got something, like, you guys should get lessons. I'm like, yeah, right. This is just a crock of shit. They just want some money from us. Turned out my sister really did have this gift. She was 7 at the time. By the time she was 9, she was riding in national competitions. By the time she was 11, she was winning national championships against adults.
Wow.
And she was so famous at the time. Like, if this was the internet age back then, she is the kind of person that would have had like 10 million followers on Instagram.
Right.
There was a flock of mostly girls that would like run around and ask her for an autograph, and it never went to her head, but she was just incredibly gifted. And even back in the day, like, people would be like, hey, look, it was weird. We were still living in this shitty house in Detroit. And my sister had formed all these connections and had earned this reputation. And like a Rolls Royce would pull up with a professional driver. And my sister and my mom would get in this fucking Rolls Royce. and drive to a helipad, which would take them to the Learjet, which would fly to this other place. And she's literally performing and interacting with billionaires because they knew if somebody saw Heather Bostrom ride the horse, that this horse that they're trying to sell is going to sell for like an extra $100,000 just because she's on the horse's back.
That's crazy.
This is insane.
Right.
And then my sister, like, we both played basketball growing up in the projects. Like, it was crazy. But it was also a lot of fun. And I was a good ball player. I was a good athlete. I was always not the best, but I was always a solid athlete. My sister, especially at basketball, she was phenomenal. She ended up getting a full ride scholarship. She played Big Ten basketball. She was I think she was freshman of the year for the Big Ten. She was defensive player of the year. She was like an all-star. She's as tall as me, so she's like over 6 feet, but she was also incredibly fast. So everything she did, so horses, like national and world championship titles, like title upon title upon title. She set records for like the youngest rider on the youngest horse, like just crazy records that still stand. This was like 40 years ago. There's some of the records she set still stands. So I grew up feeling like I wasn't sure what to do. Like I was kind of left at home a lot of time on my own.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a hard time making up my mind about things I wanted to do with life. And mostly what I figured out I was good at was helping other people because I didn't have any goals. And so when I found outdoor education, I'm like, man, this is the thing that I love and I can help other people who have an interest in it find it too. And now I get to help sort out other people's like mishaps. You know, somebody has the worst day of their life and it's my opportunity to show up and feel like my life has some worth too because sometimes I can fix a life and death situation with my partner. You know, you get into it and you get a rough call and you're like, man, we made a big difference. And sometimes the biggest difference we make is just holding somebody's hand and sitting with them, just being with them and just saying, you know, I'm here. I see this with you and I feel your pain.
So speaking of like crazy call or like, you know, being on calls and whatever, what's like a crazy call that you've ever been on? Like you're the craziest call. Like it doesn't have to be like the worst call, but like the craziest
good
call.
story.
Good story.
Yeah,
that
That's
you've
true.
ever-
All right, I got a couple notes here. Let me see if I can remember because there's so many calls, and some people like have such a great memory. Like Dan Leonard, man, he you know, you ask him a story, he'd be like, I can give you 50 stories on any topic, but let me check my notes real quick. So okay, this is a call that kind of stands out to me. So we've all worked, you know, codes. You know, somebody goes into arrest, and we all have our fair amount of saves. I have one save that is this is just such a good story. And it's not really about me. It's really about, but it's the importance of this story is what it means to me and it helps motivate me.
Mm.
So we went for, there's a woman who was having a super shitty time in life. I found out the story later. Super shitty time in life, had been unemployed, turned in a bunch of job applications, getting nothing back. She had a history of kind of a party girl, not a super hardcore drug user, but she was a party drug girl. And somebody gave her an invitation to a party and she's like, fuck it, I'm going to go. She bought $20 worth of cocaine and a pack of beer and
a good night.
went and kind of got wasted and
It's
she
like
passed out that
$20?
night. $20. Yeah. She's like, that's all
It's
I
like
had.
one line.
Right.
Right.
Go on though. Sorry.
So she went and she snorted her one line or whatever, and she drank some beers and she passed out in the living room in this apartment. And she literally was laid out on the floor. It wasn't until the following evening that somebody was like, hey, this lady's still lying on the floor.
Oh my God. That's a long time.
So this is like 18 hours later.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So we get a call for an unresponsive person on the floor, 31 Delta something or other, which I treat as this is a cardiac arrest until proven otherwise.
right.
And we show up, and the fire department shows up, and I show up, and Joe, the fly car's there, and my partner Ben was in paramedic school and was like 2 weeks away from getting his card. So we had like a really good crew. And anyways, we get to the base of the stairs, and IFD beats us to the top of the stairs. This is an apartment. Like you open the door, and it's immediately a staircase that goes up to the next floor. I'm 2 steps up, and fire department yells down, "Full arrest, CPR." Like, oh fuck. So, hang on, let me grab one more bag. We run up the stairs and there they are pumping away on this lady's chest. So we put her on the cardiac monitor and she's asystole, right? Everything looks bad. All signs are like, yeah, this is not going to go anywhere. Unknown downtime, possibly, who knows? Maybe she's been hit. Like she's not cold. She's not mottled, but it's like just enough life in this lady to not call it immediately. But you're like, all of us are looking at this like, this is this is the end for this lady. We're going to work this. We're going to give it, a minimum amount of time. We'll say, hey, we did the things and it didn't work. Like, we know it's not going to. And then we're going to call for a secure order and we're going to get our paperwork and we're going to go home. And too bad for this lady, but it was too late. And the flight paramedic's sitting right next to me. And we are at 18 minutes now, because this is the reason why I have this little watch, right? I spin it around, I go on calls, I set this timer, and I know how long I've been on scene. And flight paramedic's right next to me is like, hey man, this is your call. Me and my partner, we're managing stuff. We're all trying to do everything. We've gone through all the, the whole algorithm, and we're not getting anywhere. Still asystole, like everything looks bad. And he's like, do you want to, like, I'm not getting pushy, how can I help you? Do you want to call for a secure order? Do you want me to make the call? Do you want to work for a little longer? Like, what do you want to do? I'm like, he said, because I don't think this is changing. Yeah, you're right. I don't think this is going to change either. But I look at my watch. I'm like, you know what? We're going to give this one more round of everything. We're not quite at the 20 minutes mark. And I don't think 20 minutes is like the absolute golden rule, but I'm like, that's like a bare minimum. We're going to give this lady just a few more minutes. Let's go through, let's do everything one more time and we'll reevaluate. I'm like, all right, that's fair. And holy shit, like we did one last pulse check. I'm like, all right, pulse check. I reach out and I put my hand on her carotid. I'm like, what? And I look over at the monitor and she's got an organized sinus rhythm.
Damn.
Now, that's pretty weird.
That's
right?
like a TV show.
It is just like
Yeah.
a TV show. I'm like, and we all look at each other. I'm like, holy shit. Literally, we're all like, holy fucking shit. I can't believe this lady's alive. I'm like, I guess we're transporting. Now, this apartment was like right across the street from the hospital. Like literally, this was like I don't know, like a quarter of a mile of drive. I'm like, all right, go get a re-stretcher, get everything set up downstairs. Let's get an organized team back up here. And then literally everybody got up and walked out of the room. And I'm literally the only one in there. I'm like, well, I'm glad she's not still coding right now because I got no help. Anyway, they all come back upstairs. We load this lady and get her down and we bring her over to CMC. And we'd done like an IO and anyways, we get her moved over and that'll come into play in a minute. So we get her moved over. We take her over to the hospital and we get to room 14. That's the crash room. And give a report. And we're like, wow, you got pulses back. She still wasn't breathing on her own. I'm like, well, who knows? Good luck, lady. We did our best. And that was a giant fucking surprise. But like with the downtime and all that, her kidneys are going to be destroyed.
Right.
Who knows? She'll probably never make it out of the ICU.
Lack of oxygen in the brain. Stuff like that.
Exactly. Hypoxic injury and all the rest. So I found out that later she was in ICU for about 3.5 weeks. She woke up in the ICU with her father and her best friend talking to each other, saying, look, we never thought we'd have to make this kind of decision, but do you think she would want to live? Like, she's hooked up. We don't know if she's brain dead. She's on life support. Should we let her go? What do you think she would want? And she fucking woke up.
Fucking drama queen. Oh my God. Right. Just kept her waiting to their last minute.
So she wakes up and she starts, and they're like, oh my God. They run out of the room and they're like, oh, she's waking up. They're like, oh, well, maybe sometimes patient, I'll come in and check. And the organist comes in and literally goes running out of the room and a whole team of people come back in and they're like, oh my God. Right. They had pretty much had the same response. Holy shit, this lady's alive.
Right.
So they extubate her and they're still trying to give the family members, the father and the best friend, they're like, look, we need to adjust your expectations. Like, she might be like mentally like kind of a vegetable kind of thing, right? Like they're trying to be kind, but they're like, you need to adjust your expectations. Yeah. Well, it takes a couple days for her to like kind of come out of this like mist, right? This like fog, but she's talking and her neuro checks are like intact. She's in the hospital for another several weeks and she finally gets discharged and then she goes into a cardiac rehab unit and she's also on kidney dialysis. She's on hemodialysis 3 days a week, 4 hours a day. Like, this is the rest of your life is going to be on dialysis. Well, she's on dialysis for a period of about 4 months or so. And her kidney function starts improving a little bit. So one day she goes to get her, ready to go for her appointment and her neurologist calls and was like, hey, look, are you sitting down? And she's like, look, I've been through enough. I want everybody to just be honest with me. Don't sugarcoat it. Just tell me what it is. How bad is it? He's like, that's the thing.
It's not.
Your kidney function has returned to normal. You don't need to come to dialysis anymore. we're still going to check you. In fact, for a while, every 2 weeks, then it's going to be once a month, and they work back to like a few times a year. But he's like, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've never delivered this message. I've never even heard of it. Like, your kidney function is restored.
This lady should go buy a lottery ticket.
She did win the lottery, because she gets out of that. Her kidney function is restored. She's left with no deficits of any kind. She finishes that rehab program and starts doing some PT just to get back into shape. And she gets a call from, I'm not going to say exactly what it was, but she gets a call from a really great place. The president of this higher learning institution is basically contacts them and says, hey, look, you turned in an application a long time ago. We're not really sure why we sat in it for so long, but are you available to come in for an interview? And she gets hired and becomes the direct assistant to a president of a major entity, right?
Why?
And literally her whole life turned around in a matter of 6 months. Now, she called me at on the 6-month anniversary. She called at work and was like, hey, look, all this stuff happened. I really want to talk to this person. Is it okay? Courtney called me, and I was actually on a trip back from Rochester. She's like, hey, no pressure. You don't have to do this. I'm just letting you know there's a request, but I'm happy to tell her to buzz off. I'm like, no, I'd love to talk to her. I talked to her on the phone, got permission from work to share it. Like, yeah, we verified like she's the right person. And she actually wanted to meet with me. So I waited until my partner was back in town. He was a college student. He was going back home for a little while. He came back into town, and we actually met for coffee and got a chance to meet this lady. And it was so cool. And, she's like, oh my God, you saved my life. You did this thing. And like, there was no hope, and you continued, and you're like my hero. And the whole time I'm thinking, sitting there, and I was honest with her too. I'm like, you got to understand this. Like, you asked me to be really honest with you. We all looked at each other and said, I'm only doing this because I think, let's just give her a fair shake, but this isn't going to work. And I think the thing that I came away with is just remembering that when we're out there and we're working on people, I mean, there are times where it's just like, hey, look, this is futile. But I remember that this is not every story is going to turn out like this. I will never have another story that's as good as this one. I can guarantee it.
Right.
I still have to remind myself, like, I'm not actually making this stuff up. All those details are legit and accurate. But I remind myself, like, hey, this is somebody special to somebody else, right? This is somebody's mom. This is somebody's grandma. This is somebody's aunt or best friend. And, it's just our job to do the best that we can for the whole community of people that is affected. So that's part of what keeps me going. It's not just about like the individual save. It's just seeing like, what's the potential out there?
To all the EMS providers listening to this is why we do our job. Like all the one calls out there that just make it like you double think why am I doing this? And this is the reason why, because this story could happen to you one day.
Speak for yourself. I'm doing it for money. There's no altruism there. I'm doing it for money.
I mean, you got to go get that paramedic money then.
Working on it.
That is an amazing story. Like that's pretty cool. I've had one patient like come back and talk to us after a code, and that is an amazing feeling. So
it is, it's just this great reminder of like, we're all connected in some way, and you never really know what the outcome is. And so if you're going to show up for work, fucking give it your best, whatever you're doing. You're making pizzas in Yosemite Valley, or, whatever you're doing, just like find a way to make what you're doing count.
Yeah, actually, I got a sub tonight from DeBella's, right? And the guy made it, and he was like wrapping it up in front of me, and I literally said to him, I was like, man, that looks really good. And he goes, I make my subs every time with so much love because I want everybody to enjoy their food.
That's adorable.
I know. And I was like,
so cute.
whoa.
That's amazing, right? Like there's somebody who's, some people look down like, man, I got this stupid job just making sandwiches. And here's this other guy like, I'm going to make the best goddamn sandwich you ever had.
And it was so good. It was like the best. Like,
and it like makes your whole day.
That I had. Yeah, right. Yeah. So
I wasn't like that when I was working with him, which I was like, here's your fucking sandwich. I fucking guess. Get the fuck out of my store.
Of course. So we always do this one segment on the show.
Oh, wow.
It's called, so you have a rider tonight.
What the
And so we do a story or a call. It can be either funny or serious or whatever. but it involves having a rider with you. It could be having a rider with you. It could be you as a rider, which you kind of already covered a little bit. But do you have any kind of crazy story with having a rider with you, or a student or anything like that?
How about a brand new orientee? Does that count?
That counts. They're a rider.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. So I had an orientee. It's a Cornell student, pre-med. I'm sure one day he'll have an MD after his name. Very nice guy. And worked really hard for his orientation and to get through it. He had some breakthrough moments too, which was really cool. I think some of the best, not just providers in EMS, I think some of the best people I've ever met anywhere are the ones that seem to be really struggling with something, have to work really hard for what they get. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of a challenge for him. A very smart guy, used to sort of just always succeeding, and he struggled with orientation and getting into the right hang of things. But this one call just broke it open for him, and he became a really fucking amazing EMT. And so we get this call for a sick person. I don't remember exactly how it was coded, but it was like, it sounded bad, but there was a lot of information that was kind of fuzzy. It was just like somebody really sick, and it's in the jungle, right? The jungle is this weird spot in Ithaca that's been there for like over 100 years. And it's just like people living out in the woods alongside of this creek, and it's hard to get to, and it's kind of unregulated, and it's always been kind of a challenge. And so, Melanie.
Oh, shout out Melanie. I know she's listening right now.
Yes.
Melanie, the love of my life.
Melanie, boy, do I miss you. So Melanie and I are in a truck, along with this orientee, and we go out for this call, and here's what we have to do. We basically have to pull the ambulance into this parking lot of this business, kind of walk through the back section of this parking lot, pull open a partial hold in a fence, scoot gear underneath it, and we walk over onto the railroad tracks, walk down the railroad tracks, over a trestle bridge, into the woods, and then we're off into the woods. It's like over the river through the woods to Grandma's house you go, except it wasn't fucking Grandma's house, I'll tell you that.
All right.
And we walked, it was probably at least a quarter of a mile. Like for me, hey, I've hiked 40 miles in a day. You're like, oh, what's a quarter mile? But when you're carrying all this fucking gear and then you have to be prepared to bring somebody out, we're like, we're going to know if this is legit transport. We could show up, and half the times you show up there and somebody's like, I'm not going with you.
Get out of here.
There's no way we can drag a stretcher like down the railroad tracks, right? So we're like, let's just take some equipment with us. Let's go in there and figure this out. And then we have to extricate. We're going to need a lot of help because this is not like a simple carry. Like for those of you who have never actually carried somebody out on a stretcher, you put them on a rolling stretcher. Imagine carrying somebody and dragging them out somewhere. Like I remember when I first learned about search and rescue stuff and started practicing and running calls and stuff like that up in the mountains back in California. And you learn like a litter evac team is 16 to 24 people.
People are heavy. Shit. People like don't realize how heavy people are until like you actually have to move them. It's shocking.
It is shocking, right?
Especially when they're like unresponsive and it's just dead weight.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we go in, and so we go back and we find the spot, and there's two guys out there. They're like, oh my God, our friend, he's really sick. He's septic. He's been, he was in the hospital, but he signed out AMA, and like he needs to be in the hospital, but he won't go. He came over here and crashed with us. He got nowhere else to go. The guy's an addict. He's in terrible shape. He's got horrible infection. And we're like, all right, where is he? It's like, he's in the back of this tent. Now this jungle structure was like this weird cobbled together thing, like out of Mad Max, right? Like the way Mad Max builds vehicles, that's the way this house was, this structure was created. And it's scaffolding and ladders and blankets and this weird thing. And it's cold. It had been cold out, so there was a fire built in this thing, and this thing was kind of a rager fire. And there's so much smoke. So we go in there and we go to lift this flat back, and Melanie gets in there first, and she pulls it back, and the smoke comes building out. She's like, we can't get in here. And the guys are like, we'll do anything we can to help. We just had this in here to try and keep them warm. So they carry this big fire thing out. They go grab some shovels and hook it in there, and they drag this fire barrel out. We pull some blankets off and the tarp off, and we ventilate this place. There's so much smoke in there, we can't even see this guy. A little bit it clears, and we go in there to look at him. This guy's laying on his side, and he propped himself up on one elbow and opened his eyes, and then he slumped back down. We're like, all right, he's alive. Now, those of you who know Melanie know that she tends to be a little underspoken on certain things. So like a code word for oh my God, this motherfucker's going to die is, hey, Melanie, how's he doing? And she goes, he's sick.
That's my girl right there.
Yep. Right. I mean, if you know her, you're like, oh, damn, it's bad. It's really, really bad. And I can't see him yet. I'm like, all right, you figure out like initial patient assessment. Now that we know, she's like, you know, I know that this is going to be a transport. This isn't like a sign off. This guy's not capable of it. Right. And I start looking around, and we talk to our fire department friends at IFT, and they're like, the only way to get him out, like we can bring in a one-wheel litter, this thing called a mule.
Right.
And like, hey, should we send for the mule? I'm like, yes, go ahead and send for the mule. But like, I don't think we can wait for this thing to come from Central Station and come over and bring it in. Like, it's going to be a half an hour. Like, we got to get this guy out. We need to be gentle with him, but we need to start moving now. And if they're able to bring it in, maybe they'll meet us halfway, but let's start this extrication. So I look around, I'm like, what can I do? Right. And this is EMS. And this is also like wilderness medicine. It's treatment. This is what I love about it. You show up somewhere like, well, what equipment do you have? You're like, I don't know. What's in your backpack?
I got a stick.
Yeah. You're like, great. I can use that stick. Somebody got some tape.
Right.
So we find a garden cart. There's a garden cart. The wheels are super bent. One side is broken and kind of half hanging off. But I'm like, both wheels still turn. This garden cart, man, this is our stretcher out of here.
This is such a you and Melanie call. I can't think of a situation that's more Brad and Melanie than this.
Oh, this is like super definitive. This was awesome. I mean, not for everyone, but like in the EMS sense, like, goddamn, this was an awesome call in some ways, right? And so anyway, so I start cobbling stuff together. I run over and I grab a big roll of what looks to be like carpet padding.
Mm-hmm.
And I roll it up and I throw it on there to provide that, because it's too short for this guy. But I figure we can kind of balance him on there, give him something that has a little bit of. So I put a piece of plywood down, this carpet padding. I'm like, now we got kind of a stretcher thing. We're gonna carry him out, put him on this, and we're gonna start making our way out. And when help comes to us, or if they're able to come to us, great, we'll meet somewhere in the middle. But like, I can't wait to do this, right? And for all you people who think like, just fly a helicopter in, yeah, there's no place to land one. Like, we would be dragging this person the same distance, whether the helicopter landed or there's an ambulance out in the parking lot. So we go in there and we go to roll this guy up and get a blanket under him and carry him out of this weird hovel, right? And there's needles everywhere. There's needles in his clothes. He'd been using probably heroin and some other stuff while he was there, just to keep himself from going crazy, or to, whatever.
Just for fun,
Just for shits and giggles,
just for
right?
fun.
He's just doing his thing, trying to cope, right? And but anyway, so we got to like brush off all these needles. They're literally everywhere. There's probably 20 needles like on his person or like lying around him. So we're trying to clear all that stuff out so we don't get a needle stick. We get him on this blanket, trying to do everything gently but quickly too. And we roll him out. We bring him out into the sunlight. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's color looks horrible, right? And his shirt's like kind of torn. You can see his chest. Anyways, we drag him out. We set him on this little cart that we'd put together. And I can see that he'd been on his left side. This is the only time, you know what lividity is?
Yeah.
Right? If somebody's been dead for a long time, the blood settles and goes to the lowest part of the body. That's one of the ways we can show up on scene and say, yeah, this guy's dead, right? We put this guy in a cart and we lay him supine, like on his back. And we can see that his entire left side is purple.
Oh my God.
The only time I've seen a living person, because he was still alive at this point, a living person with lividity on one entire side of his body. And Mel and I look at each other, we're like, holy shit. Yeah, sick. Yeah, sick. That's quite the understatement, but perfect way for Mel to put it. So we start working our way down, pulling this thing through the woods, down this little single trail. It's not like a nice big wide trail. This is like dragging it through the woods. We get out to a little trail area and we get it up onto the park, onto the railroad tracks. Now we still have a couple 100 yards to go on the railroad tracks, including going over a trestle bridge. We start going down the railroad tracks. I'm like, all right, I say to the orientee, I'm like, all right, man, you're going to jump in here and support and keep an eye on this patient. And we had equipment with us, and I'm like, his breathing doesn't look good as it is. Like, bust out a BVM, because I expect this guy to stop breathing any minute now, right? He's like, oh my God. I'm like, we've been over this. You've trained how to do this. Like, this is time to step up. He's like, okay, I can do that. So we get him in the cart, and one person that, I got two people in the back pushing. I got two people in the front pulling this thing, and we're bumping down the railroad tracks. And orientee's like, oh shit, guys, he just stopped breathing. I'm like, all right, the BVM's there. Does he still have a pulse? Yep, he still got a pulse. I'm like, all right, rescue breaths, right? He puts an airway adjunct. He starts breathing for him. I'm like, all right. He's like, what are we going to do? I'm like, just keep on doing it. Like, this is not a safe place to be. We don't have all of our equipment. We just need to keep getting this guy out. Just support his breathing.
Get rid of the ambulance.
So we get about another 50 yards and he's like, shit, I lost his pulse. Like, what am I going to do? We gotta work this code. I'm like, oh my God. Like, we can't, there's nowhere to stop. There's just woods and sticks and like tall grass and stuff on either side. I'm not going to work an arrest literally on the railroad tracks.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Right? We're like, we're going to keep going, right? We're going to keep going. Someone's walking alongside. They're squeezing the bag and ventilating. And our orientee is in the fucking wheelbarrow thing, like this garden cart, doing CPR in the garden cart, down the railroad tracks, over the bridge, and then all the way out to where we could pull this guy through a hole in the fence and get him loaded into the ambulance.
You know, I will say, he technically already had an obvious sign of death. Just for the record.
Right.
I'm telling you, like, this guy was so sick. You know, we all felt horrible, and his friends were doing like the best they could for him too. And we're just like, hey, we're going to give this guy the best shots. We got him in the rig. We did everything we could. We tried to drill an IO. I remember we tried to put an IO in him, and there must have been something weird with his legs too, because I put the IO in, I seated the needle, and it just, no, actually the battery died.
Classic.
So I called for the flight
classic
car.
IO.
And the same flight car medic from the last story shows up, and again, and he does a great. And he shows up like literally, I call for help, and 3 minutes later, the back door is open. He steps in, is like, "Where?" And he sticks the IO needle in, seats it, and starts to drill. And it's just a weird call, so things are going to continue to go sideways, right? And he's, and it's spinning, and it's spinning, and you're supposed to push. You just sit there and give it a little gentle pressure, and it just seats itself, right?
Right.
And it's like drilling into a hardened steel plate. Like, it's just spinning, and it's still spinning, and he's looking at me, and he's looking at Mel, and Mel's looking, because we had already tried for IV access. Like, we couldn't get IV access on this guy. We're trying to give him, life-sustaining meds. And finally it seats in. We're all just like, yeah, this is just such a weird call. We're looking at this guy, and he's got one purple side of his body. Anyways, we weren't unable to save this guy. He was so far gone. Like, I don't know if he was savable. This guy just was not savable, but we gave it our best. But I'll tell you what, like, we look back, and this orientee, I'm not gonna say his name here, but like, he went from like really struggling in some ways, but I knew he had awesome potential. Like I said, like, I know he's gonna be a doc someday, and probably soon. And what a change. Like, he came out of this like, man, fucking A, if I could do CPR, effective CPR in a garden cart going down the railroad tracks, like, I can do this.
Right. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I can't wait until the day we ask somebody for a rider story and they just start talking shit about me as an orientee. That is my name. They're just making eye contact with me.
Right. The whole time they're just like staring at you.
Before we move into the music part, Brad, what do you think? I've been trying to do this for so long. What's it going to take to make Ice Cream Party with Brad as part of the official orientation process? I've been trying so hard.
It's true. Some people think I have an ice cream problem. Just for the record, I want to say I don't have a problem. I could stop ice cream anytime if I wanted to.
Hypothetically.
I mean, I can't stop ice cream, so I eat ice cream all the time.
Choose not to, ever. Yes, I do have a problem with ice cream. I have to watch my intake. My current favorite is a teeny tiny little ice cream sandwich kind of thing with like 2 brownie pieces. Now I don't handle gluten that well, but I actually found this thing at, my favorite grocery store.
There it goes.
Every time we're at Jess, always like, all right, man, I'm hungry. I'm like, all right, do you mind if we go to, and they're like, yeah, I know where we're going to see right?
I can't drive by it without thinking of you. I'm not even kidding.
I've been in there one time without Brad. I don't think I've ever been in there with you. Maybe I think I sat in there like one day when we were working together, but I've only been in there one time without you, and I was like, I'll probably never go back in here.
It's not a very Mike place. It's very Brad place.
It is a very Brad place. But you know what the best thing about that place is? Yeah, they have good food and snacks and stuff like that. The best thing about it is most people who work in grocery stores are like, fucking A, I work at the grocery store. Life sucks.
Those people work.
Joe's people will make out with you.
Right.
Right. They're like so nice. They're super happy. They're like, hi, welcome. We want to help you. I hope you're having a great day. What can I do to make it better? And you're like, man, you could have the shittiest fucking day. You walk into Trader Joe's and somebody's going to like feed you snacks and help you shop.
Right. It's like the Chick-fil-A. It's like the Chick-fil-A of the grocery store.
You got it.
Right.
It is the Chick-fil-A of the grocery store. So anyways, I like these little teeny
My
ice cream
pleasure.
sandwich things that are also gluten-free. And I can eat them because they're small.
And the coffee ones?
The coffee ones,
Yeah, we had those last week. Those were amazing.
those are pretty good.
Yeah.
Coffee ice cream with a little chocolate crunchy brownie things.
For those of you who don't work with Brad, some of my core memories of overnight shifts at Bangs Ambulance are me just like crying over my pile of charts, and then Brad just appears and he's like, "Do you want some ice cream?"
Brad knows my favorite thing at nighttime, and he likes it too. And every once in a while, we get the chocolate milk.
Yep.
So
Yeah, I got to tip it to Andrew and be like, man, Andrew's not here. He doesn't work here anymore. But goddamn, like I got to walk around and take a chug out of a giant jug of chocolate milk. The only thing I haven't managed to do is like that. That part of Andrew I can do. The farting with every step as you walk across the room and leaving an absolute fucking bomb behind you. I still haven't mastered that. Andrew, wherever you are, shout out to you and your chocolate milk chugging and your, I don't know, super Andrew Fart Supreme.
real quick, I'm showing Brad a video real quick.
I can't believe you're doing this on the podcast.
My
You couldn't have
wife
waited a
showed this
fucking
to me.
second.
Oh my God, this is great.
My wife showed this to me earlier today.
So, for those of you who can't see this screen, they're making a cup holder into like a little mini basket which holds a whole half gallon of chocolate milk in the cup holder of your car. And for people that like to chug chocolate milk, like this is a dream come true.
Such as for yourself, perhaps. We could get one for the rig. What if we got you one for an ambulance?
That would be awesome.
I actually did send that to Andrew Jean tonight. So
Andrew, I miss you, man. I hope you're doing well.
Okay, do we want to do music, Rex?
yeah, definitely. Let's. We always do at the end of our show. We always talk about what music we're listening to.
Everyone has to recommend a song, and it all goes on the EMS and bowling playlist.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mike, I think you should start.
I do too.
Yeah.
So we had an unfortunate situation happen this weekend, and we've been talking about death. And my mom has came up, which my mom passed away a few years ago, and then a song came on, and the song always reminds me of my mom, and it reminds me of something that she would sit down and say to me. But Simple Man by Leonard Skinner. So I could see my mom sitting down and having that conversation with me. So that's my recommendation this week.
Skinner.
Yep, Simple Man.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Mom had good taste in music.
She did. That's where I got my music love from, I believe. So
That's awesome.
what about you, Brad? What's your music rack?
I want to hear Abby's first.
Oh, we can keep up like the heartfelt streak. Okay, I want you to imagine just the worst, the lowest point of your life. I mean, down in the fucking trenches. Like, you've never been doing worse. What if I told you you could voluntarily relive that for 4 minutes? And I do often. Anyways, my song rack is No Surprises by Radiohead.
Okay, I love that. That's a good song.
Very cool. I've been listening. I like all sorts of different music. But this probably won't surprise you. So I found it's kind of an interesting connection. I find deep connections with place, right? Go somewhere where it makes you feel really connected.
Right,
to
it's
something
kind of your
that's bigger than
outdoorsy
you.
thing too, yeah.
Definitely my outdoorsy
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
right? Like I love going somewhere and just being having a little bit of a sense of awe. Like this place is bigger than me. And one of my favorite places in the world is British Columbia, coastal British Columbia, the mountains, the sea. That's just like my dream adventure, by the way, on my bucket list is to paddle the entire Inside Passage from the little south of like Olympia way up to Skagway. It's about 1,000 miles. Take about 4 months to do it. Been researching it for years. That's like
That's a great
job.
goal. Yeah.
Great Bear Rainforest, some amazing country. Anyway, so Vancouver, British Columbia, really cool place. There's a band I discovered recently. I was listening to another great band called Chris and Thomas. These two guys have been together for a while, and great guitarists, great vocalists, and Apple Music just like jumped to something else. I'm like, usually I'm just annoyed by that. I'm like, oh, what is that? And for the last, I would say 3 weeks or so, I've been hooked. And most of the time in the car, I'm finding myself listening to this. And there's a bunch of songs that I really like about this group, but it was it was a singer that was performing somewhere. This woman was a singer too, but she wasn't doing it like professionally. He invites her to sing at this weird little thing that they did in Salt Spring Island, this beautiful place in the Sailor Sea out in British Columbia. And they had an instant connection. Their voices sounded great together. They hit it off. They're now a couple. And when you hear their voices together, it's great. And they have this song called Forest Floor. It's from this, it's a group called O.C. Elliott. And the song is Forest Floor. And it's really talking about some of the little things, some of the little experiences that you have. One of the lyrics in it is it talks about swimming in a river and then getting out and feeling like
This is so you.
it is so me. It is so me. Right?
This is
Very California. This is very BC. This is very West Coast vibe. Like shimmering in the river cold, I jump in fast. From a height I fall, come out to a heated stone with you right there, and we're all alone. And it's just it's about finding really great things and beautiful connections in simple everyday pleasures. And I think that's pretty cool because like I love having big adventures. One of the best adventure I went on with my wife was like this 6-week adventure where every single day was like a 20, 30, or 40-mile hike. Or a huge long paddle. We were seeing amazing sights, paddling in the ocean with whales and orcas and stuff like that, seeing bears in the mountains. And that was like this pinnacle experience. And I love those pinnacle experiences, those things that kind of sustain you for like thinking of planning the next big adventure, the biggest trip, whatever floats your boat, right? Maybe it's good food, maybe it's whatever. But there's too much time in between those. And so it's reminding me to like just find something really good about every day and just enjoy it for what it's worth.
That's that Trader Joe's energy. They're speaking through you.
Right.
Guilty as charged.
Well, Brett, I appreciate you coming on this week. I definitely learned a lot about you.
You have a shock.
Just as weird as you thought.
Well, exactly. And you know what? And I actually loved it. And I believe by sitting here watching you talk about these stories and stuff, I believe you have a lot more. So I don't think this is going to be your last episode.
You have a shockingly dark background, by the way. I was like not ready for that.
You know, I think that's part of why, like, when I met my wife, like, she was very much into, one of the things that really connected us was that she was really into experiencing things for what they were. It was like, when something bad happens, embrace the dark side of things, because there isn't, how do you qualify happiness in really good times unless you have some bad stuff?
Right.
You know, we've all had bad stuff, but, you know, I'm ready to look for the good side of it.
That's such a good takeaway.
Yeah.
That's more optimistic than most of these episodes.
That's right. So
I gotta say though, like, I don't know, I love both of you. You both are great partners in more ways than one. It's not, you know, it goes beyond a truck. Like, you're the kind of people, you are two of the people that when I show up for work, there are days where, you know I probably have a reputation of like, oh, this is the guy that's always upbeat when he walks in. He's always happy. That's not actually always true. Sometimes, you know, like, I'm not having a great day either, right? Something that's going on in my life. And I come in and I'm constantly reminded by my coworkers, like, you know what, we got each other's backs. People look out for each other. We care about each other, and we do cool and interesting shit like set up this awesome podcast, fucking EMS and Bowling. I am so honored, honestly honored to be a part of it. It's so cool to be one of your first guests. I'll remember this for a long time, and I appreciate both of you very much.
Well, we'll probably have you on again. Honestly, you're like such a ray of sunshine. We'll have you on like as a palate cleanser to remind people that we're not just so dark and heavy all the time.
right.
Palate cleanser, great. I'm orange sherbet. That's great.
Alrighty. Thank you so much. All right. That'll do it for another episode of EMS and Bowling. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and follow button. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and Amazon Music. Check out our Facebook page to get latest updates on episodes and new content that's coming out. And until next week, thank you again.